Hello, everyone. Today is August 24th, 2023. This is the Kubernetes storage SIG meeting. So now that this 1.28 is released, we can wrap that up and start to do 1.29 planning. So this is a temporary tentative schedule. There is a PR out, but it's not merged yet. So it looks like the enhancement freeze is October 5th, but code freeze is October 31st. So the the time between enhancement freeze and code freeze is less than a month. Okay, so we have copied 1.28 spreadsheet to 1.29 to get started. So if there are anything new that you want to add, you want to track for 1.29 and targeting in 1.29, please add it. So I'm just going to go through this one and see what needs to be added or removed. The first one is the
yeah. Xing, is that document linked in the
which document?
What do you call it? The spreadsheet.
The spreadsheet is here.
It's linked in the meeting notes.
Yeah, it's in the meeting
linked
notes,
from the meeting invite. Okay.
Yeah. So 1.20 it's the same spreadsheet. So basically we just added this one new sheet, which is copied from 1.28. Right. So this is the same. Okay. So the first one is recovery from resize failure. So this is in 1.28. This is okay, done, right?
Yeah.
Do we still have some remaining work for this in the sidecar?
Those are done merged as well. So
okay.
we are just waiting for the release. So all the work targeted for 128 is done. And for 129, I don't know if are we just doing 128 planning then?
Okay.
But in 129, I want to work on restoring the size all the way to the original size. That's the design that we didn't finish.
Okay. Right. So here, okay. So this is done. So now I wonder if we want to are you going to have a different enhancement issue, or it's going to be part of this for
we're not going to use the different, it's the same enhancement, but
okay. All right.
I don't think we should mark it as end of release status quite yet, because until it's GA'd, I think, yeah.
So it's still okay. So we'll still keep this one as alpha in 1.29, you think?
Yeah, okay. Because we just made API changes in 128.
Right.
And we shouldn't maybe turn it beta immediately. So
right. So okay, so maybe I will just change this one. I'll update the 1.28 one later. So this one, should we say started? Not started yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Started is
fine. I'll just say that resize PR merged, waiting for release, for sidecar release. And then the other one is you'll be waiting in 1.29 will work on decreasing the size.
Restoring the size to original value.
Okay. Restore size to original value. Okay, thank you. So
hey, Xing, I've requested edit access to the sheet.
Oh, okay.
I don't have edit access.
Just see okay. Okay. So maybe that I'll get an email, then we can get that approved later.
Are you the owner?
Do you have comment access?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we had locked down the sheet, I think, because there
Vandalism.
was at some point someone like totally messed up the document.
Right. Do we actually, in general, does everyone have a comment?
Everyone should have comment access. Yeah, but I think before it was we gave everybody in the SIG edit access. But then like,
Oh no,
I don't-
there was a point in time when it was wide open and anonymous people could edit it, and it was it went okay for a while until something bad happened.
Yeah, I think someone accidentally messed up the spreadsheet, so we locked it down. So if there's any changes you want to make, just put a comment, and then Xing, Michelle, myself, or Jan should be able to edit it.
Okay, sounds good.
Will do.
Okay, I think so. Other than I think this one, okay, I think I changed this one, so I think this should be fine. So alpha, stay in alpha then. API, how to say API changes merged in 1.28. 1.29. Just say stay in alpha. Okay. So the next one we crossed out, so we don't talk about that. Yeah, this one also one group. I think it's still. I don't think we're moving to another status yet. So next one is provision volume from cross namespace. Snapshot PVC. Do we? Does this stay the same, Michelle, or we?
So this one needs is blocked on the reference grant work. I haven't checked the latest status of if the cap for the reference grant is ready to review.
Okay, is that I forgot the status. So that cap was not merged in 1.28.
Correct.
Okay.
The reference grant was still under discussion.
Okay.
And there was supposed to be some updates to the cap, but I haven't checked to see if those updates were made yet.
Okay. All right, I'll just keep it design then. So next one is a CSI volume house. This is basically at the E2 test. I think still I need to pin this person. So no update yet. Someone is working on this one, but I'm not sure what is the latest status on this pin. Change block tracking. I don't know if Ivan or anyone. So we did talk about this one in the data protection group meeting. So we will target alpha in this release. Alpha.
Yeah, for change block tracking, there is a CAP and a CSI spec PR that we're pursuing both in parallel.
Okay. So probably we should talk about this one. When do we need to get the CSI spec released for? Because we last time we talked about we want to wait, see if we can get this one in before we cut the release. So for this one, quality of service, how long can we wait? I guess.
Did we discuss this at last Wednesday's CSI meeting? I missed that one.
We did. We do not know how long we can wait. I guess that's the thing. So if we look at the, I think we should wait. But I mean,
so I think as soon as the schedule for 129 is published, it looks like it's already there.
this is just not finalized.
This is a tentative schedule.
Yeah, tentative.
Okay.
But
So I guess whenever that's finalized, we can pick maybe like, I think 3 or 4 weeks before code freeze seems like a good time.
Okay. Yeah, so code freeze is end of October. So it's like 1 month. So like end of September. Okay. All right, we can talk about that.
Yeah. Maybe let's put a tentative bullet point right there with a CSI spec date right above the code freeze.
Okay.
We can add our own bullet point.
Okay, CSI spec release date.
Yeah.
Okay, something like that. So tentatively tentatively, what, September 30, something like that?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
1 month before the code freeze. Okay. I'll just highlight this one so we
Cool.
can come back to this one next time. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, so Ben, please review the CSI spec and
Dude,
also the cap. Okay. The next one, I think this one is still crossed out that we don't have anyone who is picking this one up. So I think we'll just leave it like that. Next one is enable privileged containers for Windows to replace CSI proxy. Is the menu here? It looks like the menu is not in the call today, so we'll just wait. Looks like he needs to look at it. Okay, so next one is secure Linux labeling using mount options. Yang, is Yang here?
I will probably keep it in beta, this release,
Okay.
because it was just enabled by default in 1.28.
Okay. Keep in beta.
And I also promised to
It is on
collect
by
metrics.
default, right? In Amendment 28?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
By default.
I promised to collect metrics, but I need people to use it first, and then I can collect metrics. So it will take some time.
Okay. So this will just now do we still need to track this? Okay, I'll leave this one for now and see. But then this should probably not be done, or what do we do with this?
What did we do last time with the items that were just waiting for the next release? I think we just crossed them out, or?
Yeah, sometimes we just cross them out. Just say, maybe we'll cross them out and see. Unless even there's something we want to keep track, right? So we can cross this out.
No, there will be nothing done. I think we
Okay.
just cross them out and then
Alright.
uncross them in the next release.
Okay. I'll just say that. Keep beta 1.29. Oops. All right. So, okay, so next one is done. CS migration for GCE. This one is 1. Okay, so this is for future 1.30, 1.30. And this one is this one is done because we have already deprecated it, but do we need to also remove it? I guess we did a deprecation, right? We didn't.
Yeah, I think we targeted removal for like 130 or either 130
okay.
or 131.
Maybe we just do the same thing, say like this one, right? So remove, let's say this, remove in.
I think so. We deprecated it in 128, and so 3 releases is
Yeah. 31. I think that's what we said. All right, and the next one, same. Oops. Remove E 1.1. Okay, so we will just change it to not started. Okay. This one, okay, so we do not know. Once I will check with Grant and see if they have any plan. Okay, so this one, always owner reclaim policy. I need to check with the Deepak because he and see if he can start, because he's going to look at the ETV test and see if he can work on this. So we'll add a note here, say check is the back. Next one is the better default storage class. So okay, so I guess we're done, right? GA. Anything else? Yeah.
No, it's GA.
Okay.
It's done.
I guess we can
We
completely remove this one, right? We don't really have anything else.
We can delete it.
Delete the row. All right. Next one is quality of service. So alpha then, right? Target alpha.
Yep. The CSI spec part merged, but yeah, we need the rest of the implementation.
So yeah, this is still same to alpha. And we'll just change this to, we should just start it because I think there are some PRs out. Next one is robust volume manager reconstruction. This is what? This is this is same. So
This is beta. It's enabled by default, and it needs to stay enabled. It needs to stay beta for one release.
Okay. Stay beta.
Does that mean there's no work? We just wait?
Yeah, we just wait.
Okay. We'll
Just wait for customers to complain that it's broken again.
Just to cross it out then.
Yep.
Next one is PV last phase transition time. This is alpha, right?
This is alpha, and
So,
we would like to move it to beta.
okay. Do we need to wait for?
No.
So I think this is fine. I think this is pretty small.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Target beta. Right. So this is the end state is alpha. So now it's beta. It's not started yet.
Oh no.
Okay, that's okay. We're like 1.29, just getting started. So the next one is storage capacity scoring. So this is design. So Michelle, do you know how this one?
It's blocked on me. I need to review the design, and
Okay.
I'll try to get to that soon.
So it is, do you know if the tab owner will do a design or?
I think if the design is good, it can target alpha.
Okay, the project check with him.
Yeah.
I have to say, we'll check. Next one is volume expansion for stateful sets. Hemant. Is Hemant?
Yeah,
Oh.
I am here. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. There's been update on the cape. I will have to check if
Okay.
updated cape looks good, and yeah.
Okay. Do you know, are we stay in design this quarter, or do we want to target alpha?
I think you will want to target alpha, but it depends like a little bit on the reviewing the design.
Okay, so not sure yet, right? So we'll check.
Yeah.
May target. But check is author. Oh, we also have this other one that delete the PVCs when the stateful set are deleted. Is that beta? I was just wondering if are we doing anything with that one, Michelle? I think Matt is the one who is driving that.
Which one? The stateful set?
There's a delete, auto delete PVCs with
Uh-huh.
stateful set. Are we doing anything? Is that beta?
It's beta. Yeah, I can check with Matt if he thinks it's ready to go to GA.
Okay.
But it's been beta for I think 2 releases.
Yeah, it seems to be sometime. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe you can add it back here and we can I'll
Okay.
try to check with Matt.
Was it auto delete PVCs? Please stateful set. All right. Just add it here. So next one, non-graceful node shutdown. So this is GA. We do have an integration test that we want to get merged. So maybe I will just change this one to the test to get that one merged. And then after that's merged, then we can cross it out. So started, and this is so I'll just check this as a bug fix now since GA. Yeah, just wait, maybe. Okay, use to check. Okay. So I think that's all we have here. Are there anything else? Anyone?
So I put a comment on the sheet to add a new row.
Oh, okay.
I don't have access to add it. It's on that row 24.
Here? Oh, sorry.
No, on the sheet. On the sheet.
Oh, here you added. Okay.
Yeah.
So oh, this one. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me copy this one. I think for some reason, if I resolve it, then it just disappeared.
No, don't resolve it. Yeah, please add a row, or give me edit access and I can do it.
I can copy it. I just found it's a little weird. This if I mark it resolved, then it just disappeared. Okay, so the description.
So I can describe it. So back in the earlier days of Kubernetes, before we had the non-graceful node shutdown feature, if you had a node that shut down non-gracefully, you could have PVCs that got stuck there if the node never came back. So we added this 6-minute timer that would force detach your pods after 6 minutes to deal with that situation. But that feature was always a violation of the CSI spec, and it was just sort of a workaround to a gross situation. Now that we have the non-graceful node shutdown feature, which is a better way to handle that particular possibility, the 6-minute timer is more of a problem than a help. And so we want to have an option to turn it off. It'll be a command line option for Kube Controller Manager, most likely. We already have a change that does this, and we're going to propose it.
Does this need a cap at all, or is it just if it's just option, or we can just close it without a cap?
I think the eventual goal is to deprecate this feature altogether, but in the short term, just keeping the default behavior and giving an option to turn it off as a first step towards deprecating the whole thing, I think is a good approach.
So I remember we have some metrics related to this.
Mm-hmm. We do have, we have metrics. So there's one that is tracking the timeout related to force detach. The other one for the if you add a taint, right? Taint related force detach. But that is, I think that differentiation was just added in 1.28. Before that, there is also a matrix that's just tracking I think it's only tracking the timeout one, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, tracking the 6-minute force detach if there is
Right.
it triggered, so we know when it triggered and how often it's triggered.
Okay, yeah. So it is there. So if we disable this option, then that will not happen anymore. So that metric will just be no longer be used, right? For that.
Yeah, the idea is
I
the
think
default value would preserve the current behavior, but for administrators that don't want the current behavior, this would be a way to flip it off.
we added, didn't we enhance the metric to also distinguish if it force detached, the reason why it force detached?
Yes.
Right. So
in
even
1.
if we, yeah, so if we
in
disable
1.28,
this,
yeah.
yeah, if we disable the 6-minute one, it means that the 6-minute reason will no longer, should no longer output anything, but you could still output the metric for the taint reason.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, my thinking is the 6-minute was sort of a blunt instrument to, before we had a mechanism to do it quickly. And now that we have it, we would want to encourage people to use the new mechanism. Obviously, changing the default behavior in the future would require a release note, but this is just an option to, allow someone to disable it. Because it's actually causing problems in some of our installations. That's the reason for this. Like when it triggers, it causes Kubernetes to violate the CSI spec, and some CSI drivers don't behave well when you violate the CSI spec, and so we would prefer to have a knob to turn this off.
So
Yeah,
1.29 add flag default is to not
Default's current behavior, but
not disable.
you could, yeah, but you could flip it to disable it.
And then 1.30 what default disable it. What was the?
so
We should have another discussion for 130.
right.
Changing
Yeah,
the
the thing
default.
is that the default current behavior is at least automatic. The graceful, non-graceful and shutdown is manual. It requires admin intervention.
Right, right. So changing the default would require release notes and a formal deprecation and all kinds of other things. So that for now, I think just an option that lets the admin decide to turn it off, but preserves the current behavior by default is the really safe thing to do and still solve the problem.
Okay.
I hope that yeah, in 130 we'll have a discussion about deprecation.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like since we have the metrics, how often we see this, whether we kind of have a sense about frequency and in what situation it happened. But yeah, we can like check that later.
Yeah, we don't know. People probably don't run into this one that often, right? It's like a node shutdown. It's probably not a very frequent.
Yeah, I'm betting that in a lot of clusters, both metrics would be 0. But then depending on how people are managing their clusters, they might have one or the other triggering quite often.
And also,
I think before Jan's fix to only force detach on unhealthy nodes, the force detach actually happened quite a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was a very necessary fix.
Yeah. I think once Jan's fix came in, I think we have seen a significant drop in number of force detaches.
You actually see that in your environment?
Yeah, because it actually force detach happens also if just like unmount is slow. It used to be that force detach would happen if unmount is slow. It also happened because there were some bugs in kubelet, like kubelet reported pods as failed too early for jobs. and that caused us to force detach. And there were a couple of other reasons why force detach happened. Yeah, but once Jan's fix went in, I think that solved a lot of those issues.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So yeah, we can observe and see how often that happens. Okay, so I added here. Yeah, if there is anything else you want to work in 1.29 release, please add it here. All right, so coming back to the agenda doc, we have an item here. Do we have a Ryan here?
Yes, we created a E2E test with the idea to promote it to conformance once it's proven stable. Thank you very much to everybody that reviewed it. We haven't had any other comments or reviews that it needs more work, so we believe it's good to merge. So if somebody can just give us a approve there, we'll appreciate that. Or if more reviews is needed, let us know, because we want to get it on the test grid as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
It's a pleasure. We plan to address more endpoints in this release. The next up is the storage class endpoint. There's 7 of them that need testing. So we'll probably be back in a few weeks with that test.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for that.
It's a pleasure. That's all from my side. If we can just get that merged.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
And okay, now Mauricio. Maybe I should make you a co-host so you can present. Do you want to go over your slides?
Sure.
Yeah, you are a co-host. Well, let me stop sharing.
Okay. Can you see the slide?
Yes.
Okay, I'll start. So this presentation is about a proposal to combine all of the CSI sidecars into a single component. There are some terms that most of the people in the meeting are familiar with, but because this is a recorded meeting, I'll just explain a few of these terms, like KK is Kubernetes. There's the Kubernetes CSI org in GitHub, the Kubernetes 6 org in GitHub. There is CSI sidecar, which is an out-of-three controller that watches objects in the API server and performs some action. And we have CSI drivers, which interact with these sidecars. The sidecars make calls to a socket, and the CSI drivers implement the methods defined in the CSI spec and react to those calls. Then I may also talk about CP, which stands for control plane, and MP, which is node pool. The agenda is, first I'll talk about what led to this proposal, the proposal itself, risks, and what would be the next steps. So as a refresher of CSI drivers, this is a usual deployment of a CSI driver, which has 2 components. I think it may have more, like the identity server, but the ones in this slide are one in the control plane and another one in the worker node. In addition, we have sidecars, which are deployed in the control plane, and worker node have a few ones that are usually deployed in the control plane, and a few other ones usually deploy on the worker node. So in this slide, there are a total of 6 sidecars. Liveness probe is used in both components, and the sidecars are maintained by the Kubernetes CSI community, and the driver is implemented by the author of the driver. I also wanted to talk about responsibilities of each actor in this system. There is the community, which we are part of. I listed some of the responsibilities that are part of SIG storage and Kubernetes CSI, because this proposal is about CSI. I'll just highlight those. The Kubernetes CSI maintainers own the CSI spec, the sidecars, the way we test the sidecars against Kubernetes, and a lot of repos inside the Kubernetes CSI org. There is also the CSI driver author, which has a driver and needs to integrate it with sidecars so that their storage solution can work with Kubernetes. And they need to keep up with releases of sidecars, of CSI2, and of Kubernetes. For example, there is this new feature called volume group snapshot, which is a change in the external snapshotter component. There are new CRDs. So the CSI driver author would need to implement additional CSI calls that would be done by the snapshotter sidecar. They may also provide default versions of the sidecars and CSI drivers in manifests. This usually happens if the source code of the CSI driver is published upstream. And they also create releases as they see. The release cadence is different to Kubernetes. It's not tight, so they may release it faster or slower. And finally, they recommend configuration of sidecars and their CSI driver for the control plane and node pool. This involves setting up the right flags that the sidecars will have to interact with the CSI driver. And the final actor is the cluster administrator, which usually plans for upcoming Kubernetes releases and needs to make decisions on the drivers. So it might be possible that a CSI driver is about to support a feature, and that feature could mean a breaking change, like in volume snapshot, which went from V4 to V6. And there were new changes in the new fields in the CRD. So the cluster administrator needs to plan beforehand to make that available. And well, this is what happens at Google. We also, because we are cluster administrators, we provide a managed service. We coordinate with other platform teams on the testing of the integration to ensure that it works fine across tests that are not covered upstream, like upgrade tests. Let's say that we have workloads running in a cluster and we upgrade the cluster, then it might be possible that the nodes get recreated. So we hope that the CSI driver might move the workloads from a node that's being turned down to a healthy node. Okay, so I'll briefly talk about how we build components. So on the left, I just pasted two repos, liveness probe and node driver register, which are sidecars. And we have two main utility libraries. There is CSI release tools, which has all of the code to build these projects. It builds the binary. It also builds a multi-arc image. And it also has lots of code to test it against a test CSI driver, which is the hostpath CSI driver. And we also have additional Go modules. I put one here, which is CSI libutils, which has lots of utility code to set up the connection with the socket, do leader election, and so on. And the way we use these repos in the sidecars is different for CSI release tools and the Go mods. CSI release tools is just a collection of scripts, so it's not really a Go mod, and that's why it's included in the code bases as a Git subtree or through Git subtree. And CSI libutils is a Go module, so it's a dependency in Go mode. Okay, so I also wanted to cover what happens when there is an update in a dependency and what would that mean for all of the actors in the system. So let's say that there is a dependency that had a vulnerability and the vulnerability was fixed recently. That may mean that the dependency will have a new release, and then dependabot, which is configured in the sidecars, will create a pull request automatically for master, and as a Kubernetes CSI maintainer will need to review it and approve it. The same vulnerability may be applicable to the driver too. So the driver might need to update, to do the same thing, update the dependency. But if the vulnerability happened on a sidecar, then the author usually waits for a stable release of the sidecar. So for the driver author, they just need to wait for the sidecar if there are CV fixes. And for the cluster administrator, this usually depends too. So at Google, we have automated pipelines that build the sidecars whenever there is a change upstream. And we do this because we also have to make changes that are beyond what happens upstream, like patching the Go version, for example, to a newer, or updating the Go runtime to a newer version if there is a vulnerability in Go. So one question is, if we have this fix that happened in master, what happened in previous releases? I think this is handling a best of 4 basis. So if we need to backport it, that may be done by the maintainers, but as I mentioned, it's on a best of 4 basis. And at Google, we do this manually internally. Another update that I briefly talked about is the Go runtime, because we use the other report, CSI release tools, to build the binaries. Then the change goes in CSI release tools. And because this is a different repo, it has to be propagated to all of the sidecars. So there is a script that manually, or that creates pull requests and updates that submodule in each sidecar. For the driver author, they may need to rebuild their driver if there is a Go runtime update, but nothing related with release tools unless they are using it in their driver. And for the cluster administrator, they may need to rebuild the sidecars. Let's say bumping the Go runtime internally and rebuild the sidecars. And we also have the same question: the fix happened in master, and what happens in previous releases? I think it's also handled on a best of 4 basis. Usually the last 3 releases are maintained. This is also a gray area because for, let's say, volume snapshot, which went from B4 to B6 recently, the last 3 releases would be B4, B5, B6, but we're not. I think we were not sure which of the minor versions of each of these major releases were under support. There may be also changes in CSI libutils. So this is a go mode, and that means that if someone makes a change in that project, maybe all of the sidecars need to pull it using the latest Git SHA or something like that. The driver author, if they're not using libutils, then they don't need to do anything. And similarly, the cluster administrator, they just need to rebuild it. But that usually happens automatically because of that dependency update on Go mode on the sidecars. And we still have the same question. This happening in master, and what about the previous releases? And I think the same approach is taken. So I also tried to collect a few stats about pull requests that were created against all of our sidecars. We have a column for updates from the Pendabot, manual propagation of CSI release tools. This means creating a pull request and assigning it to someone in the community that can review it, and same thing for CSI libutils. And something that I didn't mention is the cascading problem, which happens if, let's say that there are many sidecars and all of them have a dependency that's vulnerable. So that means that there will be a pull request created against all of the sidecars. And this effort needs to be multiplied times the number of releases that the community supports. So for the cluster administrator, patching a sidecar may be good for the latest version, but they also need to worry about previous versions. So because this is sort of a gray area, the cluster administrator may need to backport the fixes to previous sidecar releases. And this can happen all the way down until the last release that's currently supported. I also have to mention here that Kubernetes is going on an N-3 model pretty soon, so this might mean that we might need to increase our maintenance window for components. One approach that I think that Xing helped define, that I think some other teams were using, was to reuse the same sidecars in previous releases. So that's one alternative, but the problem is still there, I believe. Okay, so a summary of the issues: we have changes in Go dependencies that cascade to many repos, changes in Go runtimes, in Go runtime, which is an update in release tools that also cascades to many repos. The Kubernetes CSI maintainers have to make a lot of releases too, because all of these components have their own release numbers. So on every Kubernetes release, we need to release a minor version of each of them. And there is also a little bit of confusion for the cluster administrator on which Kubernetes versions to use. And one problem that I didn't mention in the slides, but I just wanted to point here, was an additional problem based on how many components we have. Let's say that all of the sidecars have a minimum required or on memory, let's say 50 megabytes. And if we have 4 sidecars, that would be 200. And that would be just empty, well, the minimum required just to run the sidecars on an empty cluster without any workloads. So at this point, I asked the question, why do we have so many projects? And there is some background that Michelle provided. maybe I should read it. So before CSI, we had the concept of external provisioner. We had provisioners for cluster, Ceph, NFS, local storage, and all lived in the same repo. What happened is that the use cases and controllers ended up being independent from each other, and people would deploy only a few and not use the others. We decided to split them in their own repo so that each project would have its own release cycle and maintainers. And for CSI sidecars, it facilitated fast development and it operated like a microservice. We also thought that some sidecars would mature faster than others. And now that it's been between 2 and 3 years, we're seeing that the maintenance burden of microservices, it's outweighing the benefits of having the couple components. And one last comment that Michelle had was that the usage pattern for sidecars in specific, not these other provisioner projects, it's different because as we saw in one of the very first slides, when you do your driver deployment, usually the same set of sidecars are used. So they are actually kind of related. And this is a proposal to combine all of the sidecars into a single repo. We would have a mono repo that has all of the code of the sidecars. We will also expose a single entry point. This will be a new file that is a lot like Kube Controller Manager, where we would selectively decide which sidecars to start. And for the other problems about CSI release tools and CSI libutils, we can include them in the repo. So CSI release tools would be also part of the repo, and it would be the source of truth for other consumers of the repo too. Similarly, for CSI libutils, it would be a nested Go module. And the way the sidecars would use it is through Go workspaces. There is one problem here, which is if we move all of the code to be internal, how do we keep all of the people that are using CSI release tools and CSI libutils in the same state? We don't want to break their stuff, right? So we can follow a similar strategy to what Kubernetes does, which is that they publish the staging folders to repos. And this is done through one project called Kubernetes Publishing Bot. So in this picture, we see how it is now and how it could look like. So currently we have like 6 sidecars. And in the proposed step, we'll have just one sidecar with the same version. It would just have different flags. For the control plane, it would be just one image with different flags. There would be a controller flag similar to Kube Controller Manager, which would decide which sidecars to enable. There would be global flags like leader direction. There is also a new feature like structure login. All of that would be common for all of the sidecars because there is a single entry point. And there would also be flags that need to be customized per sidecar. So maybe we could add prefixes. So if, let's say, a sidecar defines a timeout, which is different to the timeouts of other sidecars, maybe that could be like a toucher timeout and provisioner timeout and so on. And for the NOPL, it would be very similar. We would add controllers, node driver register, and liveness probe. In this table, I tried to quantify the characteristics of the proposed solution. So assuming that we have 6 CSI sidecars to maintain, the first point is if we try to make changes in CSI release tools, how many pull requests would that mean? And that's the number of CSI release tool changes times the number of sidecars. In the new model, if it's a mono repo, it becomes 0 because sidecar or CSI release tools is part of the repo and its global changes apply immediately. For CSI libutils, it's the same thing. For GOMO dependency bumps. Previously, it was the number of dependency changes, let's say CB fixes, that times the number of CSI sidecars times the number of CSI releases supported. And this is unknown, as I was mentioning with the snapshot example. And
I'm sorry, but we're out of time. Can you quickly summarize?
Well, I think we need a follow-up meeting to continue this.
Okay.
And have discussion and things.
So should we continue this in the next SIG storage meeting? We can also talk about it in the CSI implementation meeting as well.
Sure, yeah, we can continue the next one.
Okay. All right.
So finish in 2 weeks. Is that the plan?
We can, right? We can do that. Is that okay? Are you
Yeah,
sure?
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, the doc is there, is in the agenda doc. So please review this, and we'll come back and talk about this again. Thank you very much, Mauricio.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you.
All right, then that's it for today. Thanks, everyone. Bye.